Live from New Delhi, watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Union Minister Piyush Goyal pitches Uttar Pradesh as a gateway for Japanese technology and expertise to complement India's young workforce and growing market. Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is open and operating and no talks scheduled with Iran, while Tehran dismisses claims, calling US President's assertion as delusional. Donald Trump pauses 50% tariffs on Canadian goods for 3 days, hours before the planned tariffs were set to take effect. In a landmark trial, US court criticizes Meta for harmful features impacting mental health of children and teens online, while social media giant rejects the claims. And in Women's Hockey World Cup, India thrashed South Africa 6-1 to register first win of the tournament, jump to top of the table. US President Donald Trump has asserted that the United States is not engaged in talks with Iran and has not scheduled any, but insisted that the Strait of Hormuz remains open. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote, "There are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force and effect. The Hormuz Strait is opening and operating," unquote. Trump asserted that all water mines have been removed and that other marine traffic was free to pass. He also posted a map on Tuesday marking the Strait of Hormuz as a new US territory, which drew a sharp rebuke from Iran. Iran dismissed the claim on social media, calling Trump's assertion that the Strait of Hormuz belongs to the United States delusional. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs Kazem Gharibabadi said in a post, Trump's delusion about the Strait of Hormuz will either be corrected by himself or by us. Meanwhile, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baqir Ghalibaf said on Tuesday that the Strait of Hormuz will not be open unless the United States fulfills its commitments under the US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Ghalibaf listed some of the conditions under the MOU as lifting the anti-Iran naval blockade, releasing Iranian frozen assets, removing oil sanctions, and stopping threats and military operations on all fronts. And as the 60-day deadline for a provisional peace accord expired, tensions between Washington and Tehran intensified significantly. Trump said the United States won't seek an extension of the MOU with Iran, while Tehran has decided to shift its policy from defensive to fully offensive due to the deadlock in peace talks. Meanwhile, US President Trump has warned Oman against getting involved in a deal with Iran over control of the Strait of Hormuz.
US President Donald Trump threatened to bomb Oman if it obstructed a deal with Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. Oman and Iran have been in talks to try to reach an agreement to restore commercial shipping in one of the world's busiest oil shipping channels.
This morning you said you would bomb the S out of Oman if they got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Would you say you're out of patience with Oman, a strategic partner?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we'd handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
However, Qatar, which is a key mediator in the stalled US-Iran talks, said Tuesday that an agreement between Iran and Oman over the Strait of Hormuz would make it easier to resume negotiations to end the West Asia crisis.
The trajectory of events we would like to see in Qatar is an agreement on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which would coincide with the resumption of the ceasefire and the resumption of the talks. The agreement over the Strait of Hormuz would make it much easier for us to resume the talks between the United States and Iran.
On the other hand, Tehran has made it clear that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the US meets conditions of the interim deal, including lifting the marine blockade and sanctions, as well as freeing Iran's frozen assets.
و روشن بگویم
And let me make it clear, until America implements its commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, including lifting the blockade on the release of frozen assets, lifting the oil sanctions, ending threats and military operations on all fronts, and other conditions that America has agreed to under the understanding, the strait will not be reopened.
Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts are ongoing to ease the crisis. Trump's envoy and son in law, Jared Kushner, said the United States and Iran were having very positive and active conversations, while noting that there's really not a lot of trust between America and Iran after all these years. Trump said the United States is not seeking an extension of the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran, which expired on Monday. Iranian leadership has also adopted a hardened posture. Tehran has decided to shift its policy from defensive to fully offensive due to the deadlock in efforts to agree to a permanent end to the crisis. A senior Iranian official said that Iranian entities must be prepared to escalate tensions in the Strait of Hormuz and wider regions. He added that Tehran would conduct a timely and precise military attack to break the US naval blockade if diplomacy failed. As the crisis deepens, oil prices rose for a third session on Tuesday, heightening worries about prolonged energy supply disruptions. Raghav Kumar Jha with Antra Sinha for DD India.
And the UAE on Tuesday alleged that Iran fired two ballistic missiles at shipping in the Gulf. Tehran, however, refuted the allegation as baseless. The Emirati Defense Ministry said it detected two ballistic missiles launched from Iran, with one of them fell inside the country's territorial waters while the other landed outside. The minister later said that the two missiles were targeting maritime navigation and fell into the sea. The Gulf country earlier warned residents of a potential missile threat and advised them to seek a safe place. Iran, however, rejected the UAE's claim and called it harmful to regional trust and security efforts. Meanwhile, the UAE suspended all trade and financial dealings with Iran until further notice amid regional escalations. The UAE was among the few Gulf countries that faced the heat of Iran's attacks when the Middle East conflict began on February 28. However, the Gulf country has not reported any attacks since June, when a memorandum of understanding came into effect between the two parties. The United Nations on Tuesday expressed deep concern over reports of attacks by the Houthis against targets in Saudi Arabia. UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric called on parties to respect their obligations to protect civilians.
Deeply concerned by reports of attacks by the Houthis against targets in Saudi Arabia. Such attacks risk furthering entangling Yemen in the wider regional confrontation at a time where, as we all know, the region is already facing intense pressure and regional trade and energy flows are already under severe strain. Attacks and threats against shipping must also stop, and freedom of navigation in both the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden must be upheld. We again call on the parties to respect their obligations to protect civilian infrastructure. Through de-escalation, they need to prioritize Yemen's own national interests and the interests of its people.
Now, Turkey rejected on Wednesday Israeli allegations that it posed a threat by preparing to send troops to a base in Syria, which was hit in a strike that the United States blamed on Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said late on Tuesday that Syria was on the verge of violating a status quo agreed with Israel in security matters by allowing Turkish troops to deploy at the airbase. The statement further read, Israel repeatedly warned Syria that such a deployment would pose a threat to Israel's security. Syria chose to ignore these warnings. And the statement came after reports of Israeli airstrikes on Abu al-Dahur airbase in Syria, with the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Syria and Iraq, Tom Barrack, expressing concern over what he called an unnecessary escalation. Earlier, Syria had accused Israel of violating its sovereignty following the strikes on Abu al-Dahur military airbase in Idlib province. The Syrian Foreign Ministry described the strikes as a flagrant violation of Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity and warned that such actions could increase tensions in the region. Jordan and Qatar also condemned the strikes, calling for an end to what they described as Israeli aggression against Syria, while Turkey urged the international community to take action. The attack appeared to be Israel's first strike on Syrian government assets since March. Now, Syrian Foreign Minister Asad al-Shabani said on Tuesday that the nuclear material discovered at an undisclosed site in Syria is not dangerous and will remain in Syrian custody under International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards. Speaking alongside IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi in Damascus, al-Shabani said Syria had informed the agency on July 17 that it had found the material. Grossi added that the country had the right to use it for civil and peaceful purposes. Grossi said the agency was able to access the site after being notified by the Syrian government. Moving on, South Korea on Wednesday said that it would cut the annual joint military exercise with the US by about half after President Donald Trump ordered the Pentagon to scale it back. South Korea Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement that the annual Joint Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise period will be reduced to August 17 to 21. The statement further said the decision was made at the suggestion of the US side. The program had originally been scheduled to conclude on August 27. The allies also decided to scale back some of the combined field training exercises, with the specifics still under discussion between the two. The developments came after Trump ordered Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to scale back substantially the joint military drills on Sunday evening stateside just before its start on Monday. Earlier, North Korea has slammed joint US-South Korea military drills as a major threat despite Washington's decision to scale back the exercises. State media called the drills the most immediate and open threat to North Korea and regional security. The comments came after President Trump ordered the Pentagon to reduce the annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercises, calling them inappropriate and hostile. Pyongyang has long condemned the drills as rehearsals for invasion. North Korea made no mention of Trump's order of his reported interest in restarting talks with leader Kim Jong-un. The US has about 28,500 troops stationed in South Korea. US has sanctioned the president of the International Criminal Court and a senior court lawyer, escalating the Trump administration's confrontation with a Hague-based tribunal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said sanctions were imposed on ICC President Tomoko Akane and senior trial lawyer Abdullah Sai. The ICC condemned the move, warning it undermines the rule of law. Sai was part of the prosecution team that sought an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The sanctions freeze any US-linked assets and cut the officials off from much of the American financial system. The Treasury has allowed affected transactions to wind down until September 17. We are slipping in a very short break. On the other side, more stories. Keep watching Lead India NewsHour. But still to come on this edition, Bolivia lawmakers likely force economy minister's removal in setback for President Paz. Australian court begins appeals hearing for mushroom murderer Erin Patterson. And NASA unveils first images of SpaceX rocket's moon crash site.
स्वागत आहे टू मैग्नेटिक महाराष्ट्र. Come share in the richness of Maharashtra as one family, united by the collective vision of building a better tomorrow.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. A Russian strike on Kharkiv has claimed at least 10 lives while Ukraine launched over 600 drones at Moscow. Meanwhile, hitting back at Moscow, UK has said that it would continue to support Ukraine 100%. This report brings you more.
Concerns have been mounting over attacks on civilian areas by both sides in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. At least 10 people have been killed in a Russian attack on a village in Kharkiv on Tuesday, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that the strike hit a busy intersection, a location with a post office and stores surrounded only by residential buildings. Earlier, Ukraine launched 620 drones at Moscow and surrounding areas in one of Kiev's biggest air assaults on the region. This comes as UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham vowed that the country would continue to support Ukraine 100% against Russia after Moscow warned London of consequences over reports British-made drones had been used in strikes on Russian territory.
This is the UK doing what it has long said it would do, which is to support Ukraine 100% against this illegal war led by Vladimir Putin. We are providing support so that Ukraine can defend itself, and that's been the British position all the way through this conflict by previous Prime Ministers. It remains the case with me. We are not fair weather friends. We will be there in Ukraine's hour of need, and that won't change.
According to the United Nations, more civilians have been killed in the war in recent months than in any period since the start of the invasion. Meanwhile, Russian forces said that they have captured 2 settlements in the Donetsk region. This comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin hosts Myanmar counterpart Min Aung Hlaing in the Kremlin. Russia is hoping to open up opportunities in Myanmar for its energy companies. In another diplomatic engagement, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told his North Korean counterpart that their countries were working to establish a new and righteous world order, after Pyongyang helped Moscow to drive Ukrainian forces from a Russian region last year. North Korea is estimated to have sent 14,000 soldiers to Russia in late 2024 to help Moscow beat back a major Ukrainian incursion into the Kursk region. Bureau Report, DD India.
And US President Donald Trump announced late on Tuesday night a 3-day pause on new 50% tariffs set to go into effect on Canadian goods, saying the two countries had reached an agreement. Trump said in a post on Truth Social the pause was based on the fact that Canada and the USA, subject to the finalization of documents, have a deal. Trump added in his social media post that the Keystone XL pipeline, a project cancelled by former President Joe Biden in 2021, may be awoken from the grave. Trump's post came after he spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Tuesday afternoon, their second conversation this week, and after weeks of negotiations. The sides have discussed cutting US Section 232 tariffs on Canadian vehicles to 15% from 25%, with further reductions based on the amount of US content in each vehicle. And the tariffs cover products such as wine, hockey sticks and cement. Trump's planned tariffs target around 5.5% of Canada's exports to the United States, worth about $20 billion, Oxford Economic estimates. The US duties will not apply to Canadian energy, potash or goods already facing sector-specific tariffs, but are set to hit products covered by the US-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. And in a fresh blow to Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz, at a delicate moment for his economic reform agenda, Congress voted to censure Economy Minister Jose Gabriel Espinosa. Lawmakers backed the motion by majority vote after Espinosa failed to appear before Congress to answer questions on his management of the economy, monetary policy and macroeconomic planning. Under Bolivia's constitution, Paz has 24 hours to remove the minister from office. However, Espinosa said on Tuesday that he would turn to the nation's top constitutional tribunal to review the decision, arguing that procedures may have been violated. The vote comes at a sensitive time for Paz's government, which is seeking congressional backing for economic reforms and for a financing program negotiated with the International Monetary Fund in July that still requires approval from both Bolivia's Congress and the IMF Executive Board. Moving on, NATO forces held major exercises in Romania, practicing fending off an invasion of the eastern flank country. Over 1,000 troops from across Europe and led by France took part in the Eagle spearhead exercises in Congo, Transylvania. The forces tested their ability to fight off a large-scale attack on the country which borders Ukraine. The exercise comes as other eastern flank NATO states warn Russia may launch a limited attack on the alliance. The Kremlin says warnings of Russian attacks are scare stories. Shifting focus now, the Supreme Court of Pakistan ordered on Tuesday that former Prime Minister Imran Khan be moved to hospital from jail. Imran Khan, who served as Prime Minister from 2018 to 2022, has been in jail since his August 2023 arrest on corruption charges and is serving sentences in several cases. Earlier in December, Khan's sister said the jailed former Prime Minister was in good health but facing isolation and psychological strain. Authorities have denied any mistreatment and say Khan is receiving all entitlements available to prisoners. Minister of State for Interior Talal Chaudhary said decisions about prison visits were up to jail officials and not under control of the government. Now, Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister Toshimitsu Motegi visited Saudi Arabia on Tuesday and met with the Presidential Leadership Council Chairman Rashad Al-Alimi in Riyadh. The leaders discussed cooperation on maritime security. The meeting also focused on Yemen's deteriorating security environment. Rashad Al-Alimi praised Tokyo's continued support for Yemen, particularly in education, healthcare, food security, saying Japanese assistance represented a long-term investment in the Yemeni people. The Yemeni leader also called for expanded Japanese support for the Yemeni Coast Guard, including training, surveillance, search and rescue, counter-terrorism and efforts against organized crime. Now, Spain began building a new temporary migrant camp in Ceuta on Tuesday aimed at housing migrants unable to access shelters because of overcrowding. Authorities said 4 temporary sites will be built with capacity for up to 1,500 people. Existing reception centers are operating beyond capacity, leaving hundreds of migrants sheltering from intense summer heat on Ceuta's El Trampolin beach. An estimated 5,000 to 8,000 migrants remain in the Spanish North African enclave following a mass border crossing 2 weeks ago when more than 72,000 people entered the territory. Most later returned voluntarily. Now, in Nigeria, at least 25 people were killed in an overnight attack on a village in central Plateau state, raising fears of further violence in the region. The attack took place as local youths were conducting a routine overnight community watch. Most of those killed were reportedly women and children, while several others were also injured. A local youth group criticized authorities and called for stronger security measures to protect vulnerable communities. Plateau State, part of Nigeria's middle belt, has faced recurring violence linked to disputes over land, grazing rights and resources, with ethnic and religious tensions often contributing to cycles of retaliatory attacks. Moving on, the World Health Organization warned that the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo remains far from under control, with the country having reported more than 5,000 confirmed cases and 2,378 deaths. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom said that the outbreak was far from being under control and had gained a considerable lead over response efforts, warning of a high risk of further spread within the country and internationally. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said Monday that the outbreak could become the deadliest Ebola epidemic ever recorded globally unless its trajectory is urgently reversed. An Australian toxic mushroom killer Erin Patterson began an appeal on Wednesday against her conviction in a triple murder case that made headlines worldwide. The 51-year-old was found guilty last year of murdering her husband's parents and an elderly aunt in 2023 by serving them a beef Wellington lunch laced with lethal death cap mushrooms. Patterson was also convicted of the attempted murder of her husband's uncle, a small-town local pastor who survived the beef and pastry dish after weeks in hospital. A judge sentenced her to life imprisonment, eligible for parole after 33 years. 3 judges at the Court of Appeal in Melbourne are hearing 2 appeals: Patterson's attempt to overturn her conviction and the prosecution's demand for a stiffer sentence over 2 days starting on Wednesday. Now, NASA has released new images showing the crater created when a SpaceX rocket stage slammed into the moon earlier this month. The images reveal bright and dark streaks around the crater, showing fresh lunar material and dust thrown up by the impact. NASA and South Korea's Danuri mission worked together to pinpoint and image the crash site. NASA captured the images after a 6-day wait for the impact site to come into view. NASA said a timing error of just 10 seconds could have shifted the target by 10 miles. The Falcon 9 upper stage hit the lunar surface on August 5, creating a crater about 60 feet wide and less than 10 feet deep. Now, French astronaut Sophie Adenauer has embarked on a historic mission aboard the International Space Station. Adenauer became the first French woman to perform a spacewalk. She was joined by NASA astronaut Anil Menon for the 6.5-hour operation. The pair will replace a critical communications antenna that connects the International Space Station with mission control in Houston. And former Facebook safety executive Arturo Bejar testified Tuesday as 29 U.S. states open a landmark case accusing Meta of putting profits ahead of children's safety. California, Colorado, Kentucky and New Jersey allege that Facebook and Instagram were designed to keep young users hooked, contributing to anxiety, depression and even suicide, while misleading the public about platform safety. The states also called Meta of illegally collecting and using children's personal data. The Oakland federal trial is being billed as one of the biggest legal tests yet of social media's impact on young people. Meta says potential penalties could reach $1.4 trillion. CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Instagram chief Adam Mosseri are expected to testify in the 6-week trial. Still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. NTA revamps exam team, introduces 4-tier paper checks to boost transparency and security. Fire breaks out at a Kolkata hotel, 9 dead, several injured. Details after the break. And we'll get you weather updates from across the globe.
The gateway to Northeast India welcomes you to the land of untouched natural beauty and diverse history.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. Union Minister Piyush Goyal pitches Uttar Pradesh as a gateway for Japanese technology and expertise to complement India's young workforce and growing market. Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is open and operating and no talks scheduled with Iran, while Tehran dismisses claims calling US President's assertion as delusional. Trump pauses 50% tariffs on Canadian goods for 3 days, hours before the planned tariffs were set to take effect. In a landmark trial, US court criticizes Meta for harmful features impacting mental health of children and teens online, while social media giant rejects the claims. And in Women's Hockey World Cup, India thrashed South Africa 6-1 to register first win of the tournament, jump to top of the table. Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal on Tuesday invited Japanese businesses to deepen investments and partnerships in India at the UP-Japan Investment Meet 2026. More than 200 Japanese industrialists, CEOs, business representatives and policymakers are participating in the investment meet being held in Uttar Pradesh and New Delhi. The meet aims to attract Japanese investors in the fields of semiconductors, digital infrastructure and data centers. The high-level Japanese delegation is led by Kotaro Nagasaki, governor of Yamanashi Prefecture. Highlighting UP's economic potential, Commerce Minister said that the state under the leadership of CM Yogi Adityanath was working towards its goal of becoming a $1 trillion economy. As India-Japan trade at $27.5 billion, Minister said investments could play a significant role in shaping the future of both economies.
Warmth and trust are at the heart of our relationship, and it is matched by the strategic ambition with a clear number, 10 trillion yen of Japanese investment in India over the next decade. In technology, in industry, in manufacturing, in innovation, in artificial intelligence, areas that will shape the future of human growth and human destiny. We believe from semiconductors to critical minerals, from quantum computing to battery storage, from clean energy to next generational mobility, the areas of cooperation between Japan and India are innumerous and offer tremendous potential to investors and to industry.
And more than 1,400 Japanese companies are currently operating in India, including Suzuki, Toyota and Honda in the mobility sector, Sony in electronics and Hitachi and Mitsubishi in engineering. Commerce Minister is scheduled to visit Japan from August 24th to 27th to advance discussions with the Japanese government and industry and further strengthen the special strategic and global partnership between the two countries.
I will be leading a very large, probably the largest delegation ever to leave the shores of India. More than 200 industry persons from all across the country, women entrepreneurs, startups. We will all be meeting several industry associations, chambers of commerce, investors, bankers. A very packed calendar, 4-day calendar in Japan is slated to further strengthen the relations between Japan and India and will give a big boost to investments from Japan to India.
And the fourth round of India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable called ISMR is going to be held in Singapore on Thursday, with India set to discuss ways to deepen bilateral cooperation across emerging and strategic areas. The delegation comprises Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Minister of External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar, Minister for Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal and Minister of State for Electronics and IT and Commerce and Industry Jitin Prasad. During their visit, the ministers will hold discussions with their Singaporean counterparts and are also scheduled to meet the country's leadership. The ISMR has emerged as an important institutional mechanism for advancing India-Singapore cooperation in new and emerging areas. The inaugural meeting was held in New Delhi in September 2022. The fourth India-Singapore Business Roundtable, which serves as a strategic and advisory forum bringing together leading business figures from both countries, will also be held alongside the Ministerial Roundtable. Now, India and Somalia held discussions on strengthening cooperation in several areas of mutual interest during a meeting between Ambassador-designate Adar Swaika and Somalian Deputy Prime Minister Saleh Jama. The discussions took place as Ambassador-designate to Somalia Adar Swaika called on Deputy Prime Minister of Somalia on Tuesday. The discussions covered key areas of bilateral cooperation and ways to further strengthen it in diverse sectors of mutual interest. The Ambassador-designate also had an interactive session with a number of Indian nationals working in Mogadishu. He assured the Indian community members that their welfare remains top priority of the embassy. The consular officer also provided clarity on their consular queries. The Ambassador-designate also met a delegation of SOM India, an organization having more than 500 members who have studied in Indian universities. The ambassador expressed appreciation for their continued association with the embassy and their contribution in strengthening people-to-people linkages between India and Somalia, particularly relating to trade, education and culture. An Indian Army Chief General Dheeraj Seth on Tuesday called on Nepal's Prime Minister and Defence Minister Balin Shah in Kathmandu. The Army Chief, who is on a 3-day visit to Nepal, held warm and productive discussion with Nepal Prime Minister and Defence Minister Balin Shah on strengthening defence cooperation between the two countries. Earlier on Tuesday, the Army Chief interacted with student officers at the Army Command and Staff College in Shivpuri on evolving dynamics of modern warfare and its implications on junior leadership. He highlighted the rapidly changing character of warfare, the growing role of technology, information and multi-domain operations, and the need for agile, adaptive and decisive leadership. The Army Chief also offered prayers at the Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu. The National Testing Agency has revamped its examination team, removing around 600 experts and onboarding new ones as part of efforts to enhance transparency and accountability. In a social media post, the Ministry of Education said that a 4-tier question paper checking system will be put in place by NTA to strengthen the scrutiny of examination papers. The NTA will also induct 20 to 25 officials in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Further, NTA offices will be shifted to the new premises where security will be reinforced with CISF teams. NTA decided on the direction of Union Education Minister Prahlad Joshi to put in place all necessary security and related infrastructural facilities for the smooth conduct of examinations. And former Delhi Minister and Aam Aadmi Party leader Satyendra Jain will be produced before a Delhi court on Wednesday, a day after his arrest in connection with an alleged corruption case linked to the Delhi Jal Board. Satyendra Jain has allegedly been accused of being involved in the manipulation of a tender process for sewage plant projects of Delhi Jal Board. Besides Jain, ex-Delhi Jal Board CEO Udit Prakash Rai and 4 others have also been arrested by the anti-corruption branch. According to ACB, the probe found large-scale irregularities, manipulation of tender conditions and criminal conspiracy in tendering process related to upgradation of sewage treatment plants of the DJB, which is Delhi Jal Board. It was also found in the probe that the tendering process allegedly contained restrictive technical specifications and conditions favouring a particular technology provider. The AAP leader's arrest came nearly 4 years after he was arrested by the ED in a money laundering case in May 2022. He had spent nearly 18 months in prison before leaving jail in October 2024. At least 9 people, including a child, were killed and 6 others injured after a massive fire broke out at a hotel in Kolkata in the early hours of Wednesday. The incident took place around 1:30 a.m. on Free School Street near New Market in central Kolkata. Upon receiving information about the blaze, fire tenders were rushed to the spot to douse the flame. Several guests were trapped inside the building after the blaze erupted, prompting rescue team to rush to the spot. Police and Disaster Management Department personnel also reached the site for the rescue operation. The injured have been taken to a nearby hospital. Initial reports suggest an air-conditioned explosion could be the cause of the fire, though the exact reason is yet to be ascertained. Let's take a look at weather updates from across the globe. First up from India. Heavy rainfall is expected to lash several parts of the country on Wednesday, with the India Meteorological Department issuing a red alert for eastern regions of Uttar Pradesh. Thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds are also likely in parts of several states. The Weather Office issued an orange alert for Uttarakhand and parts of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, predicting heavy downpour for today. Parts of Delhi, Punjab and Haryana are also expected to receive rainfall on Wednesday, with the Met Department sounding a yellow alert for these regions. The IMD has forecast heavy rain in Chhattisgarh, West Bengal and Bihar as well. Heavy showers will continue to batter Jharkhand, while no rain warning has been issued for Odisha for today, according to the Weather Office. Several states across the country have been grappling with incessant rainfall and flood-like situation for the past few weeks. The continuous downpours have thrown normal life out of gear, leaving several areas waterlogged and causing traffic congestion. A satellite time-lapse showed sunlight moving across tropical storm Lala's tightly wound spiral bands as the storm churned westward over the Pacific Ocean on Tuesday. Warm sea surface temperatures and a well-established inner core are allowing Lala to strengthen as it moves westward, steered by a ridge of high pressure to the north. Although Lala had weakened from a hurricane to a tropical storm, officials warned of continued heavy rain and flooding across the islands. On to South America now. Peru continued to grapple with the effects of heavy rains, which triggered flooding and landslides, damaged roads and disrupted traffic in several parts of the country. Heavy rains damaged roads and caused landslides, leaving vehicles stranded in several areas. A state of emergency was also declared in several districts. The government has arranged temporary shelters, community kitchens and healthcare services for affected communities and clear floodwaters. Now, Chile issued an evacuation alert for the coastal community of Poso on Tuesday after heavy rains triggered mudslides. Residents reported damage to homes as mud and debris swept through parts of the community, while heavy machinery was deployed to clear blocked roads. Authorities and residents remain concerned about further mudslides. Heavy rains also prompted red alerts in several municipalities across the Antofagasta region. In France, the water levels in the upper part of the Doubs River along the Franco-Swiss border have dropped due to persistent drought in the region, revealing sculpted rock walls and bare stretches of earth and stone. On a usually broader stretch of the river called Lac de Brenets, it has shrunk to a narrow channel of water, leaving boats beach on its fringes. Weeks of scant rainfall and successive heat waves are behind the low water levels in the river, similar to other parts of Europe. Time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India NewsHour. OpenAI pauses advanced AI model Astra over hacking safety concerns. And India to face Pakistan in Hockey World Cup match today. World Photography Day being observed today, a special story to honor the art, craft, science and history of photography.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Business updates now. OpenAI is pausing development of its most advanced AI model, Astra, amid growing safety concerns. The company said it is halting a major training run after tests showed Astra could cross its warning threshold for hacking capabilities. The move follows a July incident involving an OpenAI agent that carried out an unauthorized attack on Hugging Face. OpenAI is also tightening controls and developing a system to flag suspicious AI behavior within 30 minutes. CEO Sam Altman says safety must keep pace with AI capabilities. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with hockey. Women's Hockey World Cup. First, India thrashed South Africa 6-1 to register their first win of the tournament. Sunelita Topo opened the scoring in the 11th minute before Navneet Kaur doubled India's lead through a penalty corner. So Sheila Chanu made it 3-0 before the half-time. Deepika Lalremsiami and Sakshi Rana added 3 more goals in the third quarter as India ran riot. South Africa pulled one back through Kayla Dewal in the 55th minute, but India comfortably held on. The win keeps India unbeaten after 2 matches and puts them on top of Pool D on goal difference. India will face England in their final pool match on August 20th. And talking about men's hockey now, arch rivals India and Pakistan lock horns today in a high-stakes Pool D encounter at the 2026 Hockey World Cup. With England already qualified, the final second phase spot hangs in the balance. India currently holds second place with 3 points and a neutral goal difference. A victory seals India's progression to the next group stage, while a draw guarantees advancement unless Wales pulls off an upset against England. If Wales wins, tie-break criteria including matches won, goal difference and goals scored will decide the second qualifier. For Pakistan, sitting on 1 point with a -3 goal difference, the equation is do or die. Only a win against India will keep their World Cup campaign alive. All right, TD India's Deepika Mehto joins us to talk more on this. Hi, Deepika. Historic scoreline for India. Let's talk about Women's World Cup first. Literally, they thrashed South Africa 6-1. And India went into this game as favourites and in fact played like favourites. And in fact, this has been just the start showed Mourinho's side would have wanted to this World Cup campaign.
Good morning, Abhishek. Indeed, a historic win for Team India here. It started with a draw against China, who are the Olympic silver medalists. But when we talk about India's performance yesterday against South Africa, it was a win-win situation for Team India. I'm sure the coach would have been really happy because after the team's draw against China, the coach said that there are few areas on which they need to work. There is a pressure because there are big teams ahead. But he also mentioned at the same time that he doesn't want the team to look at the mathematics and he want the team to be in the rhythm. And in the last match also, it was Navneet and Deepika who scored. At this particular match also, Navneet, Deepika, along with other players, as you mentioned in the report, they scored a goal. It was not only a historic line, but a score line, but also a very historic match against South Africa, which makes the Indian hockey team here, women's hockey team here, even more confident going ahead in their match against England, because they are already topping the Group D, which means they can now move out from the pool in most probability, and going also considering the fact that how they play against England. However, the men's team couldn't perform really well against England, but the women's team, they are yet to play against England. So it remains to be seen that if Team India in women's category would be able to move out from the pool group and make it to the semi-finals. But right now, as of now, the teams looks very much confident and very much ready to take on England on the 20th, as you mentioned, Abhishek.
Talking about Men's World Cup, Deepika, India will face Pakistan today. Big match and both of them face very different equations heading into their Hockey World Cup clash. A win would seal India's place in the next phase, while a defeat would result in elimination. A lot of permutations and combinations.
Abhishek, as the campaign saying 10 saal ka dabdaba. So 10 saal ka dabdaba is the hashtag campaign which has been trending across Twitter and of course by Indian Hockey Federation also, because we have seen the dominance that India have always had in the past 10 years, in the past decade against Pakistan. But when we talk about an event like World Cup, here every quarter of the match becomes a match in itself. So it becomes like a mini match. And we saw that how Team India collapsed in front of England. So from that match, the confidence has really shaken up about the team. Craig Fulton was there. His face clearly depicted and clearly said that how, he was looking at the team in the last quarter against England and he felt that this is not the team which I really created. And also when we talk about the last match, which was against Team England, where, Jugraj did not play really well. Amit Rohidas conceded a goal. And on the other hand, there was a lot of pressure. But now going against Pakistan in this particular match, although the match is completely sold out today and it has a capacity of at least 10,000 fans, spectators who will be supporting Team India and of course Team Pakistan, their favorite teams respectively. But going ahead in this particular match, although Team India have the dominance in front of them, and India has also have an upper hand with a number of players with a kind of team lineup, because at least 4 to 5 players are those who have already played at least 3 to 4 editions of different World Cup at the Hockey World Cup editions. So when we talk about this particular World Cup edition, Pakistan of course comes with the mindset that they would like to pin Team India here. They would like to disturb the momentum, but a single disarray can really break the momentum for Team India here, and especially coming from a defeat against Team England where the confidence has already been shaken. Craig Fulton is of course working on different areas where Team India lost the momentum, but again it remains to be seen that how Team India will actually like to play like a complete unit today, because this is what it is required. We have experienced players like Harmanpreet, Manpreet and others, Hardik, who have played different editions of World Cup, but it is not only about a single player, it has to be about the entire team unit which has to perform against Pakistan. Though India have more points as compared to Pakistan, if they don't play today, if they lose a match today, they would be out of this World Cup, FIH Hockey World Cup. But Team India, it is not only about Pakistan, it is about winning the World Cup as well. So India would be having their home crowd who would be supporting them, but India has to play and perform today and maintain that lead position if they want to move ahead in their particular pool, and if they want to move ahead a place upper in order to make some promise when we talk about their entrance in the semi-finals of this particular edition. Abhishek.
Yes, the match will start at 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for inputs, Deepika. And from random selfies and family moments to sunsets, celebrations and everyday memories, photography has become an integral part of modern life. Every August 19, World Photography Day celebrates the art and technology of capturing moments and preserving memories. Think about your phone gallery. Thousands of photos, random selfies, blurry food shots, sunset skies and goofy videos of pets. Why do we take them so many? Because every single picture is a little time machine. Today on World Photography Day, we celebrate the magic of capturing the moments we never want to forget. It all began back in 1839 when the French Academy of Sciences revealed the daguerreotype. For the first time ever, you could capture a permanent, hyper-detailed image on a silver-coated sheet of copper, no film negative required. It was a scientific miracle. But it wasn't easy. Early photographers had to lug around heavy metal plates and toxic chemicals everywhere they went. That changed in 1884 when George Eastman swapped those heavy copper plates for lightweight film paper. A few years later, he launched the Kodak camera, putting a camera into the hands of everyday people for the very first time. And from those early rolls of film to the digital screens in our pockets today, photography stopped being just science and finally became everyone's story. But why do we celebrate World Photography Day on August 19th? Back in 1839, it was on this exact date that the French government purchased the patent for daguerreotype, handing the invention to humanity as a free gift. Then exactly 171 years later, on August 19, 2010, nearly 270 photographers came together and shared their pictures in a global online gallery which was visited by people from over 100 countries. That momentous event officially birthed World Photography Day as we know it today. A photo doesn't show what things look like. It brings back how things felt. The smell of rain on hot pavement, the loud laughter at a wedding, the proud smile of a parent. We have gone from waiting days for film rolls to develop in dark rooms, to snapping and sharing stunning shots in seconds right from our pockets. Technology changes, but the heart of it stays the same. It's not about having the most expensive camera, it's about how you see the world. So today, find the beauty in the ordinary. Take that picture, tell your story, because your perspective is one of a kind. Happy World Photography Day. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from All First here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.